I got a call from the superintendent at Talladega. He was actually at the game, and when he called me, he was you could tell him he was distraught and just kind of let me know, hey, an official went down, had a heart attack, and he wasn't sure exactly what was going on as regards to his health. And he didn't have much information on who it was or whatnot. So I immediately called David Cato, who's the district director in the East Central District, and I called him and said, "Hey, can you find out a little bit more about this situation? We had an official go down and get me that information as soon as possible." And then he calls me back and told me it was Joey.
Looking into making sure that the officials um, not only get certified or somebody on that crew need to be certified, if it's referees or somebody, because like I say, and it is, a lot of people think about liabilities, hey, should I jump in or whatever. Um, at the present time, in the back of my mind, I was thinking even that night, if I do wrong, what the outcome going to be. But then if I do right, what the outcome going to be. So either way, Joey was in trouble either way. So that's why I look at it. Joey wasn't going to have a good outcome either way. If I jump in and do wrong or jump in and do right, Joey going, but we got to do something
I asked the surgeon on Monday if he felt like I could do clocks because they said that we need some clock operators, and he said he didn't have a problem with it.
It's great.
So I will be doing some clocks, like I guess next week and on through toward the end of the season. But my plan is to be back on the field by next year at least.
And now, Season 2, Episode 30, a special edition, Unexpected. Join host Dana Pappas with special guests Lou Murphy, Joey Shelnutt, and Ken Washington on the From A to Zebra podcast.
Welcome back to the From A to Zebra podcast. I'm Dana Pappas. My co-host Nate Acosta can't be with us on this episode. This is a special edition of the show, and we're calling it The Heart of Officiating. You'll find out very soon why this episode is perfectly named. Our guests today are Lou Murphy, Joey Shelnutt, and Ken Washington. Lou and Joey are both football officials for the Alabama High School Athletic Association, and Ken serves as the AHSAA Director of Officials. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
So thanks for joining us. And really, before we get into the story and the reason why we're all here today, we'd really love to learn more about each of you. So for Joey and Lou, how did you get started in officiating? How long have you worked? Do you work in other sports besides football? We'll go ahead and start with Joey.
It's kind of funny how I got started. I know a lot of people know Steve Marlowe. He's an SEC official now. I go to church with Steve, and he taught me several years prior to me joining, and I never did say, I really want to do this, but then I said, yeah, let's try it. So Steve got me into it, and then once I did that, some other officials said, well, you want to call basketball with us? And I'm like, man, I said, I played pickup basketball, but I've never. I said, so we'll give it a shot. So I did that, and then at the end of basketball season, my president from our association of football said, "You want to try baseball?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's give it a shot." But the way I work now, basketball and baseball pretty much are on kind of on the hold. Like I guess you would call a sub if they need somebody, and I can do it. That's what I do. So and about 15 years, I think I've been calling.
That's great. We love when we recruit from within. So that's definitely a common thread with officials. So Lou, what about you? What's your officiating story?
Okay, yeah, I pretty much started about 20 years ago officiating basketball. And again, a colleague of mine, he actually asked me to actually come to official meeting. And like I say, my son's always been around sports, coaching Little League, all the way up to, junior high Little League, I guess you'll call it. But so I went to a meeting and kind of liked it, went to a couple games with them and stood on the sideline just to see what they do. And they hooked me, so I actually started calling football and calling basketball. And then another friend of mine that, he said, man, you need to come over to football. You got that size, everybody said that size, so when I went out there, I kind of enjoyed it. And I always like to say my boys played football, and I've always been around that. that atmosphere. So, um, as my youngest son decided to go ahead, with high school, I said, well, I got to have something to do. So I went on to start officiating. So I was doing like the middle school while he was going through high school. And that's what I've been doing.
That's great. So for Ken, if you could tell us about your own officiating journey and how you got to be in your role now at the HSAA.
I mean, just like these guys, I started off playing sports growing up in the projects, and we had a boys and girls club there, and I used to go there every day, and they had us participating in all types of sports. And like many kids, I always thought I was going to make it to the professional level, and I didn't make one of that. I didn't make part of the 1% that actually makes it to that, that particular level, but I still enjoyed playing. And just like these guys, just word of mouth. The officials used to officiate the games in the summer times, and they always told me, hey, you would make a good official if you decide to do it. And I finally took them up on it. And at the time, I met Mark Jones. He was the assigner who was the director of officials later on with the AHSAA. And it's just crazy how all of that works out. And I had decided to officiate, and I loved it, and I took off really fast. I don't think people are taking off as fast as they did back when I started 20 years ago, but I moved up the ladder pretty fast and learned from a lot of great mentors along the way. And Mark was going to resign from, well, retire from his position, and interview for it. And I don't know what happened. He decided that he wasn't going to retire. And I got the call saying he wasn't going to retire. He decided to stay. And then Mr. Steve Savarese asked me to come along as the assistant director. And so I accepted the position. She still allowed me to officiate. He didn't want to take that away from me. And I was able to kind of get my feet wet at the association. There's a lot of things, as you may know, being at the National Federation level. There's some things you think you know that they do, and when you get there, you're like, oh my gosh, this is way more than I thought. But then, Mark resigned maybe a year or so later, and then they put me in the interim role, and they hired me full time.
That's great.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump right into it. So Joey and Lou, you all were officiating a football game on Friday, August 22nd, just like you've done however many times before for 20, 15 years. This wasn't the same as any other game you had ever experienced. So I'm just going to turn it over to you and what happened that night.
Well, I remember that night, our pregame and in the locker room and all that, and we're going over what we need to look for and everything. I do remember that, and I remember going on the field for pregame. Luke jokes about it, but I asked him how my shirt looked, and he took my collar down. We all want to look good as we go on the field, but I remember pregame and watching teams warm up, and I remember the first quarter, and then Matt Caldwell was the official, and at the end of the first quarter, we picked the ball up and go to the other end of the field. And I guess I remember 1, 2, maybe 3 plays of the second quarter, and I spot the ball and I raise up, and I wouldn't say I felt dizzy, but maybe like a little woozy. And I stood there for 3 or 4 seconds, and Matt's waving me off, and I'd like, like give me a second, and about 3, 4 seconds later, it went away, and I started to back up. That's all I remember. All I remember after that is what I've been told.
Gosh, so Lou, you were there, and I know from hearing about it, you kind of leapt into action. So as he's not remembering what
hmm
happened, what happened then?
Yeah, well, I was the bad judge in that game, and like I say, Joey was spotted the ball. He was getting ready to back up, and I thought he actually tripped over a kid. How umpire was backing up, and like I say, I was just looking, and but when Joey fell, he fell hard, like, and bumped his head back on the turf. I'm like, that's not good either way. So I ran up to him, and so when I got up to him, Joey had he was rolling back, and he got some trying to get air, gasping for breath. And me and Coach Crawford, when I got down on him, I rolled him over a little bit, and I said, well, that's a guy. It looked like he having a cardiac arrest, So I told Coach Crawford to beg for the official, beg for the paramedics. I'm like, I got to start compressions. At least I know paramedics is there. At least I can get the compression started, which I have been trained before to do that. So once I started compression, it seemed like I was there a day and a half, but I was only there 3 seconds, but it started compression. And one of the paramedics that was at the game come from the stand, and he kind of tapped me out. He said, "Lou, let me get him," and he started, compressions on him. And young lady from the other team come across, started helping out with CPR, so.
So in total, about how long did all of this take? What, obviously went to the hospital. What was kind of the aftermath of all of that?
Yeah, now on the part, seemed like we was out there. It seemed longer, but it wasn't.
Sure.
We was out there probably 5 minutes because they had to, put the defibrillator on him and, shocked him back twice, doing all this here, Clint, he's the paramedic that come from the stand. He's on top of the gunner, he's pumping Joey. And like I say, they got him in the ambulance and took off with him. We actually took about 20, 25 minutes and let the game kind of rest and actually started the game back up, But I would say probably 10 to 15 minutes before he was going to the hospital.
But like you said, time slows down and you feel like
Yeah.
it's much longer. Wow. So we're gonna ask Joey some questions in a second.
Mhm.
But so Ken, at what point were you, as the director of officials, kind of made aware of what had happened, and what were your initial thoughts or reactions when you had found out?
I got a call from the superintendent at Talladega. He was actually at the game. And when he called me, you could tell him he was distraught and just kind of let me know, hey, an official went down, had a heart attack, and he wasn't sure exactly what was going on as regards to his health. And he didn't have much information on who it was or whatnot. So I immediately called David Cato, who's the district director in the East Central District. And I called him and said, hey, can you find out a little bit more about this situation? We had an official go down and get me that information as soon as possible. And then he calls me back and told me it was Joey. And so I go in Dragonfly looking up Joey information, trying to figure out how can I get in touch with this guy, and looking for emergency contacts. And I called his phone hoping that somebody may have just grabbed his stuff and was just kind of escorting him along and be able to give me some insight of his health and how he was doing. But I got his voicemail, and that's pretty much kind of where it left. And I think I was able to get in touch with him the very next day through a text message or something. And I told him, I said, man, you got to find a better way of getting attention around here.
For sure. So Joey, we were talking off air a little bit, and you said you hadn't really been feeling bad, and you really don't feel bad now. So, how are you feeling? How's the recovery been, and what was the prognosis at this point from the doctors?
Like, yeah, I had surgery on the following Wednesday, double bypass, and the doctor when he and I didn't know this. I just went to see the surgeon on Monday, and he said I'm ahead of schedule with everything, and he said everything looked good. But he told me Monday that I actually had some cracked ribs and broken ribs, and I didn't know that until Monday.
Oh my
But
gosh.
yeah, and that's probably the least of the worries. But when the surgeon told me that when he got in, he said my heart looked really healthy and everything. It was just I had 2 blockages. They thought it was 3, but it was only 2. So he did the double bypass, and then I was at Grandview up in Inverness. It's like a suburb of Birmingham, and I was there for about 2 weeks. I think everything's looking good. Everything's going good. I go see a cardiologist on Tuesday of next week, but I'm just sitting here recovering day by day, getting stronger, and just getting a lot of walking in. I started when I got out, they make you walk like the next day after surgery. They get you up, and the lady asked me, she said had a walker there, and I'm like, "What's that for?" She said, "For you to hold on to." I was like, "Let's try it without it." And I said there is places along the way that I could either grab a hold of or sit down. And she said, "Yeah." So I said, "Let's try it without the walker." So I was walking without a walker, and they thought that was amazing. But once I got out of the hospital, I went, different places. I go to Walmart where Lou works, and I started walking in Walmart maybe for 20 minutes the first Saturday I was out of the hospital, and I've worked my way up to about a mile and a half to a mile and 3/4 now.
That's great.
Yeah, when I get tired, my body tells me it's time to quit. So, but I try to increase every couple of days, every week, try to put some more laps in. But the my surgeon said that's one of the reasons I'm kind of ahead of schedules because of the walking that I had put in and but I don't know if I have to have cardiac rehab or not. The cardiologist may think I have to, but I won't know about until Tuesday.
Okay.
So, but we're just getting better day by day, and that's all we can ask for, you know.
Absolutely, and that's great. I'm so glad to hear that you're ahead of schedule. Everything's looking good. My father had sudden cardiac death a number of years ago, and it was similar. It was the heart looked good, but it was a blockage in an artery. And same as you, hadn't felt bad before. He survived, and it was just one of those things where that rehab is so important and getting up and moving. Even though probably the first time you get up, it's a little bit terrifying, but I'm so happy to hear that you're feeling well and recovery's going well and you're ahead of schedule and just it's a lot of a lot of mental battle, I'm sure, too, just overcoming that. So so happy to hear that everything's okay. So Lou, you were quoted in the newspaper as saying that you didn't consider yourself a hero, but rather someone who was trying to get air back at his buddy. In the weeks that followed the incident, have you really been able to process that you saved Joey's life?
Well, I really think about that, and I still consider myself not being a hero because, God had me at the right place at the right time. He furnished me with the ability to learn that CPR, and out of 20 some odd years, I never used it. So if he wouldn't have let me use it that day, it would have been a waste, but I but I just think, and I, like Joey come by my job sometime, and we talk, and it's just good to see that, because like I said, I don't think I did anything special, because like I say, there was a lot of people who got there, but wasn't nobody reacting. And I was decided that, hey, somebody got to react until the paramedics get here, so I just jumped in and did what I know I could do and was hoping everybody else come on along, and do what they're supposed to do, and I really think that God had us all at the right place at the right time.
I definitely agree. And, good for you for having the presence of mind to jump in there because,
Hmm.
there is kind of a fight or flight kind of instinct where
Hmm.
some people they may have the skill, but they freeze in that moment. So for you to be able to go, something's wrong and I need to get over there, that's really incredible. So, we talk on this show a lot about the officiating family. So, Joey, for you, how has the officiating community or officiating family supported you following your heart attack?
Well, I've always been told that officiating is a brotherhood, and I really never understood that until this happened. All the prayers and thank yous from officials from all over the state, and not only the state, but kind of in the nation. It's kind of funny, but I got a get well card from a NFL officiating crew, and the head referee lived in Texas, and all the officials on that crew, it had their names and they got numbers. It had their names and numbers, and everybody wrote get well wishes, we're praying and all that. But I got a full understanding of actually how officials are a brotherhood, and it's a blessing to be an official. And Olu got my vote for official of the year. I don't care what anybody else says.
Wherever that petition is, you're signing it first. That's an amazing testament to that officiating community to have people reach out to you that you didn't know that NFL crew. So for them to take the time to do that, I really do. There is something special about this family and this community and in the officiating world that a lot of people don't know about. And I'm so glad that you've felt that support and that love from your officiating brothers and sisters across the country. So Lou, how have the events of August 22nd impacted your crew?
Well, I would think, it made everybody aware. Even the five guys we had on the floor, on the field at that night, two up in the press box. So when we got back together, hey man, I'm gonna go get checked. And that's what we have a lot of seasoned officials that think, hey, we still got it, we still young, we still can do this, do that. But we really think, I really think that we all as an official should, go have the self check, and I learned from Joey's situation. Our body really do talk to us and tell us when things are wrong, but sometimes we ignore it, or try to get grandmama stuff to pack it up or patch it up or whatever. But but it really your body really tells you something. And me myself went to the doctor this week, and I also had, just to get myself checked before basketball season, and found out that, I might have another artery that's in the process of being blocked, but they're gonna check it in another few weeks, or it might. My doctor said, it could probably be something that he could deal with medicine, but if if we don't go, we won't know, So, but I really do think that as an official, we should honestly check on your crew as before we go on the field. Since that game, every time I go on the field, we have our um little huddles or talks or whatever. And I want to make sure, hey man, you all right? Referee, hey, you all right? I want to ask everybody that. And just to be, hey yeah, man, I was sick today. Okay. If you were sick today, that means somebody might need to just keep an eye on you. You ain't got to just bug you, but just keep an eye on him. Hey, he was sick today, so we never know.
Gosh, great advice.
Mhm.
So, Ken, do you feel like the situation and the subsequent media coverage of it has had an impact overall on the HSAA officiating community? And if so, how?
Yes, before I address that, I would like to, because Lou kind of mentioned it, but I don't know if you are aware, Dana, but Lou had quadruple bypass surgery.
I did not know that.
Yes.
When was that, Lou?
Yes, that was 2015. Look,
My,
July the 27th, 2015. And like Joey, I have no kind of feeling that anything was wrong at work. Just walking, doing my normal job, but I was getting tired a lot. And then I went to the hospital. Well, I'm sorry, went to my doctor, and he thought it was just acid reflux. And he treated that for a couple of weeks, never would go away. So I went to my cardiologist, and he looked like, dude, you ain't even going home today. We had open heart
oh my
surgery the
God.
next day. Yeah. So I had a quadruple bypass. And and like I was telling Joey, just do what they say. You can get back out here on the field and do what you love. So just follow their direction, because they really know what's going on with that ticker. So.
Wow.
Hmm.
Holy moly. Yeah, I did not know that.
Yeah.
There-
But yeah, I thought that was very important
It
to know
is.
how full circle this thing is. And so just being on this level, has been a lot of push of, should we require officials to be CPR certified? You never know. We always think we got time, nothing's going to happen to us. We're Superman, we're Superwoman until that time happens. And hopefully somebody like Lou is present to be able to jump into action. And the other part that we've been getting a lot of press on is, should we require officials to get physicals
Sure.
before getting out there officiating? Because we do feel a sense of responsibility for these individuals while they're out there doing the things to help our student athletes to learn life skills while they're out there in sports, and we can't do it without them. But at the same time, we gotta not prevent anyone from wanting to officiate. We just want to make sure you're out there in good health because we care about you.
And that's a great point because we hear that a lot at the NFHS level about requiring physicals and all of that. And it's always so tough at this level, like
Mhm.
college, pro, they all have those requirements. And I think states have really hesitated, but I do think that there's reason why we should, but I also think that there's reason why we should look at that CPR certification because you never know, especially when you're in a really isolated place. Coming from New Mexico, there's a lot of rural communities, and is there going to be a paramedic? So being able to have those tools with, people on your crew is certainly something that this kind of incident makes us think about. So, Joey, is your kind of an off the cuff question, is your plan to get back to officiating, or are you just kind of taking it day by day with recovery, or how are you feeling about that?
I asked the surgeon on Monday if he felt like I could do clocks because they said that we need some clock operators. And he said he didn't have a problem with it.
That's great.
So I will be doing some clocks, like I guess next week and on through toward the end of the season. But my plan is to be back on the field by next year at least. And I know basketball's probably out this year unless I do some clocks. But we're gonna get back out there. My sport was football in high school and played some in college, and I love calling football more than any other sport that I referee. So we're gonna get back out there. That's for sure.
Well, I love hearing that. Ken, Lou, any parting thoughts as we kind of conclude this episode?
Okay, well, I don't have any, but like I say, just to touch bases. If we would, I like what Ken said about looking into making sure that the officials um, not only get certified, or somebody on that crew need to be certified. If it's referees or somebody, because like I say, and it is a lot of people think about liabilities. Hey, should I jump in or whatever? At the present time, in the back of my mind, I was thinking even that night, if I do wrong, what the outcome going to be. But then if I do right, what the outcome going to be. So either way, Joey was in trouble either way. So that's why I look at it. Joey wasn't going to have a good outcome either way. If I jump in and do wrong or jump in and do right, Joey going, but we got to do something we can't just stand back and look, but just having that knowledge, to even if you don't do anything, just have the knowledge to if you have to do something. It could be a family member. You never know.
Absolutely. Ken Washington?
Man, I just think a lot of times, Dana, when we do what we do, sometimes it seems like it's a thankless task at times. But when things happen like this, unfortunately, we realize that it's absolutely a pleasure to be able to serve officials. And I don't take the position lightly, and I really love what I do. So I appreciate you putting this on. This was awesome.
Oh, absolutely. And Joey, best wishes to you for continued recovery. Lou, hope you're doing okay as well. Please
Thank you.
stay in touch. If
I
there's ever
will.
anything that the NFHS can do for you guys, please let us know. I was able to be with y'all this past year at the Officiate Alabama Day, and y'all are family to me as well. So thank you for what you do, and thanks for serving. And Joey, hope to see you back on the field next year. That'll be good. And we're all cheering for you guys. And thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And best wishes for all the recovery in the world. And for our listeners, thank you for joining us on the From A to Zebra podcast. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and X for more information about the show. We'll see you next time.
Be sure to hit that like button, follow, subscribe, and also catch From A to Zebra on Instagram at from_A_2_zebra, Facebook From A to Zebra podcast, and on X at From A to Zebra.